Hello and welcome to this tutorial from VFXHOMELAND. In this tutorial we are going to create this effect. Okay, let's start creating this effect for a simple path, for example a line. So let's create a geometry, and here let's create a line, and let's increase the length of this line, and also let me increase the points along this line, for example 10. And here let's go to top view and let's create a curve node, and here I'm going to create a cross section for this effect. So let's select it and let's create a rectangular shape cross section. Okay, that's good. So here we have a path and a cross section for this effect. Let's create a resample node here to get more divisions along this cross section, and let's choose a number like, for example, 18. And here let's create a sweep node to see the result. Connect the cross section to the cross section input, and let's connect the line to the backbone. Okay, and as you can see here, the direction of the cross section is wrong, so let's create a transform node and rotate it 90 degrees along the x-axis. And here let's go to the output tab and let's select skin unclosed option. Okay, here is the result till now, and the idea is creating a shape and cross section for one side of the line and use a copy node to create the shape for the other side. So let's create another copy and let's mirror it along the z-axis. So let's put -1 for the z scale value. Okay, now let's create animation for the cross section. Here I want to use bend node, and here you can see the results of the default values for this node. If I increase the bend value, you can see it moves from z-axis toward the y-axis, from the capture direction to the up vector. So let's go to the top view. What I want to do is to select the x-axis as the capture direction, and I want to bend it toward the z-axis. Okay, let's increase the bend value. Okay, I think that's good. And here let's create simple animation for this bent value. So let's create a key at frame 1 and create another key, for example at frame 24, and let's put the 0 value for the bend to have our original shape. And here let's go and see the results. You can see we have a very simple animation for the cross section. What we can add here is the another animation, and here let's create a carve node. And let's select the U option for the carve direction, and let's start from 0 to 1 within 24 frames. Okay, let's see the result. Okay, that's good. Now we have to offset the animation for the primitives in each row of this shape. So for example, let's go to the sweep node, and if I enable the display primitive number option, you can see the number of primitives. And for example, we have to offset the animation for primitives from number 13 to 25. So we have to put each the primitives of each row in one group. So the number of primitives in each row is related to the number of points in the carve node, and you can see here we have 14 points here, and in each row we have 13 primitives. So let's create an attribute for each primitive. Attribute create, and let's choose row for the name, and for the value let's choose expression. Let's choose an expression like floor number of primitive divided by number of points in our carve node -1. Okay, and now if I go to the geometry spreadsheet and go to the, of course this attribute should be primitive attribute, and if I go to the geometry spreadsheet, you can see that the value of this attribute for the primitives number 0 to primitive number 12 is 0, which means that they are belong to row number 0, and from 13 to 25 they are belong to row number 1. Okay, so let's create for each subnetwork, and let's choose each attribute value for the for option, and here we want to use our row attributes. Let's dive inside, and you can see now we have primitives of one row here, and Here let's create time shift node, and let's offset the animation for this set of primitives. So this node loops through every rows, so the index value of this node is related to the number of rows of primitives. So let's type here $f minus a stamp for each node, and the index of this loop, and let's go back and see the result. Okay, now you can see we have this effect, and I think it's better to offset the animations furthermore, so let's multiply it by 2. Okay, that's good. Let's try 3 instead of 2. Okay, that's good. It depends on you. You can choose a good value for offsetting the animation. And here the number of rows is equal to number of segments here, so you can increase them. And as you can see, the only problem here is frame 1. You can see we have a small primitives here, and we have some points here, as you can see here, but if I go to the curve node, you can see there is no points in this node. So it's a problem with the sweep node. And here, if I refresh this node, you can see everything is okay. And play the animation and go back, and there is the same problem. So I think it's maybe it's a bug for this sweep node. So here I want to create a switch node here, and let's add a delete, and let's delete everything at frame 1. So let's choose $f greater than 1 as the value for this select input, and here at frame 1 we have to choose the delete node, and here let's delete everything. Now everything is good. Okay, you have got the main idea for creating this effect. And here if I create a curve as the backbone for this sweep, and create another curve for applying this effect to it, you will see that it doesn't work perfectly with this current network. So let's go to the top view, and here let's create a random curve as a path for this effect, and let's choose NURBS as the primitive type, and let's add a resample node, and let's connect it to the second input of the sweep node. Okay, let's see here the effect. As you can see here, it perfectly works for one side of the curve, but if I go to the copy node, you can see that we have an issue here. So instead of creating another copy of this effect here, let's delete this node and let's try to create another copy of cross section here right before the carve node. So let's go to the top view and here let's create a copy, and here let's mirror it along the z-axis. Okay, it looks everything worked fine, but if I go to the sweep node, you can see we have a very strange result here. Okay, and the main problem is that when we apply this copy node, now we have two primitives. And of course, if I select inside the sweep node, if I select the one primitive at a time, you will have this result, and it seems that everything is fine. But if I go to the for each node, you can see we have another issue here. Okay, because now we have to create other rules for the row attribute and create other rules for putting the related primitives in one row group. So the simplest solution is to create only one primitive for the cross section. So let's go and select all primitives at each point as the cycle type for the sweep node, and here let's delete the copy node, and here let's create a transform node, and let's choose -1 for the Z scale. And now we have the same result as before, and here let's create a sort node and connect it to the bend node. Let's choose reverse, and now if I merge them together, you can see we have continuous number of points, 1 2 3 4, and here we have 16 17 18 19 20 21, and here at the end we have 37. Okay, now if I create an add node and delete geometry but keep points, and also if I go to the polygons tab and choose connect them by group, we will get this result. And of course here we have to apply the sort node right after the transform node. Okay, now you can see we have only one primitive. Okay, let's apply the carve node just before this new nodes, and here let's connect the add node to the transform node, and here we have to select the add node to add node to create the row attributes. Okay, let's go back and see the results. Perfect. Let me test it with another curve. For example, let me here make some changes, make it more complicated, and let's see whether it's working fine with this network or not. Okay, I think that's enough. Oops. Okay, let's see the result. As you can see here, this effect follows the line and the initial pass perfectly. Okay, here is the final digital asset for this effect. I've added some parameters here so you can have more control over the overall look of this effect, and I put the download link in the description so you can download it for free. Here you can see the results using this simple curve, and as you can see here we have the same issue as before at frame 1, but now you know how to fix this issue. Here in the parameters, these four parameters control the overall looks, the size and the resolution of the cross section. For example, here this cross section is big for this length of curve, so let me decrease the height and the width of the cross section. Now you can see it's much more better, and these two parameters control the resolution of the cross section. If I enable the display points option, you can see I can increase or decrease the resolution of the cross section. Okay, so now we have more points here. So let's decrease this number to 12, and these two parameters are for controlling the closing animation of the cross section, and before we used one bend node to create animation for the cross section. Here I've used two bend nodes, and with the help of these two parameters you can control it. For example, here let's create a simple animation. Let's start with -9t, and for example in frame 24 let's close the cross section, so let's choose 0. Okay, and here is the animation. And there are two more options here. You can choose whether you want to see the other side of this effect or not, or with the help of this parameter you can change the direction of the animation. As you can see now, the cross section is closing outward of the curve. Here is the reverse animation, and these two parameters control the overall speed of the animation. So for example, let's change them to 0.5, and you can see now we have a slower animation. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and I hope to see you in the next tutorial. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel and wait for the new tutorials.